Hey, this is Choyoung. Welcome to Getaway to Ghetto 5 to Ace World History.
Disclaimer, although it says get a 5, there's absolutely no guarantee you'll get a 5. This is purely for any desperate kids out there who slept throughout the year and have the exam the next day. Cheers. Human, we're filming.
What? I slept through the year.
Come on, Hubert, professional.
Yeah, so today we'll be talking about the fourth major period in world history from 1450 to 1750, which features being like European dominance when European gained a lot of knowledge. While other people were like slacking.
Basically, other people had a lot of deaths and oppression.
Alright, anyway, to start off, we're talking about imperialism and colonialism by the Europeans. So one of the major themes of this time period is imperialistic and colonialistic behaviors of the Europeans. So the major countries that adopted these two kinds of features were the Portugal, Spain, France, Great Britain, and the Netherlands. So
in the beginning, much of the motives for sailing is all about finding India and finding more trade routes, connecting Europeans to the Indian subcontinent.
Yeah.
So the most significant one was Dias. What was his first name? Dias Bano Bartolomeu.
Sounds legit. So
yes.
Anyway, what he did was, at 1488, he got to the Cape of Good Hope, which is
ironic
because no Good Hope. Yeah.
Once they found the Cape of Good Hope, nothing but bad things happened.
Yeah. So anyways, Cape of Good Hope was located at the tip of Africa, South Africa. And other than Portuguese, Spain also started their conquest in the Americas, starting from 1492 by Columbus, when he sailed the Blue Ocean to discover.
It's 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blues.
Anyways, he discovered the Western Hemisphere for the first time. JK, he's not the first one who found it, according to historical evidence and all that.
So basically, Eurocentrism is a strong theme, but there's evidence that Zheng He found it during the 1930s, when he 下西洋, and also
another Icelandic explorer and Viking called Leif Erikson. He was apparently the first one who found it in 1001.
But because Eurocentrism, they like to believe a big white European dude found it instead of some random bearded sailor. So that's why he's the first.
The Columbus voyage started the Spanish conquest in America. So in 1521, Cortez conquered the Aztec Empire, which was located in current-day Mexico, with his, witty mind, dirty tactics.
Europeans. So Pizarro also toppled the Inca in the 1533, using the same exact tricks Cortez did. So what are these dirty tactics? First of all, they pretended they were gods because they were white. So the Native Americans thought there was this god coming to visit them, so they instantly had the upper hand. Second of all, they tricked the kings and kidnapped the kings, using them as ransom. They're fighting like cowards,
Yeah, man.
I mean, if any Europeans are watching, we respect you guys. This is purely Asian perspectives.
Yeah, sorry, man.
So the third thing is they had unbalanced weapons.
Yeah.
So there's the guns, but the guns are useless, right?
Guns.
Not those guns. The guns they had were really basic, like the muskets, and so they relied on their swords more. But because of the steel, the swords were
the steel. And most importantly was the germs. Have you guys all heard of the term guns, germs, steel? Anyways, those few are the main 3 points that allow the Europeans to have advantage over people in America.
Warning. The content of this might be overly exaggerated. However, there are still some truth towards it. Please consider the validity by your own discretion. This is what it looks like. Hi. Hey. Who the F are you? I'm a god. OMG, praise the god. Time for tricks and kidnapping. RRRRR. SF guns, germs and steel.
So at the same time, Portuguese conquered
Brazil!
Whoops.
Anyway, the Treaty of Tordesillas led to the splitting of territory between Spain and Portugal. So basically, Portugal got Brazil! Yeah, man, and Spain got the rest of Latin America under the Spanish control. Later on, UK, France, and Holland followed Spanish, Portuguese, and took over parts of North America and some parts of the Caribbean.
Mostly North America. A fun fact, the British went to purify their new religion after the Protestant
Do you mean Protestant?
Reformation, which we'll talk about later. But after purifying the religion, they started having all the things like the Salem witch trials and all the fun and bloody things, basically.
Yeah, man, witches. Fun. Black magic, man.
I smell black magics.
So sooner or later, European countries started to conquer different parts of the world, including the Americas, parts of Africa, South Asia, Oceania, and Polynesia.
All the countries tried to build international empires. Ever heard of the phrase, the empire on which the sun never sets? Even though that's technically impossible due to time zones, but yeah.
Wait, I thought it was caused by time zone.
Whatever.
Next, we'll be talking about the economy. Without these glasses,
even with or without, you won't see anything, because that's economy.
Mysterious.
So, the general trend for economy from the 1450s to the 1750s was mercantilism.
So, the basic concept of mercantilism is that trade would generate wealth and it will be stimulated by the accumulation of profit balance, and which the government should encourage by the means of protectionism. So, in a more easy term, it means that no free trade, protect domestic sellers, encourage export, and don't have that much import.
So make your country as rich as possible, because there's a limited amount of wealth out there.
Yeah.
So because they wanted to make themselves as rich as possible, they started digging silver in the Americas, which led to an influx of silver, which led to inflation.
Which means it is bad. Another important thing to note at that time is that China used silver as its currency, and because of this influx of silver, it allowed Europeans to trade with China easily.
However, inflation ultimately is still bad. Okay, so instead of crossing the Silk Road like they always did in the past, the Europeans now based on sea trade instead of the Silk Road, land trade. So they went to China and India mainly through sea routes around the world or under Africa, usually under Africa.
Yeah, obviously this was caused by the control of Muslims in the Middle East, so which made them difficult to pass through the Silk Road.
They didn't want the Muslims to take their taxes.
Yeah, and this also kind of started the whole globalization thing that we have today.
So speaking of globalization, this period 4, from 1450 to 1750 was the first time the Western Hemisphere was involved.
Yeah, so this time the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere started to have activities together, such as the triangular trade.
So keep in mind, previously the Western were just their own little thing with the tribes, the Mayans, and all the Aztecs. No one cared about them. Now, triangular trade consisted of 3 regions: Europe, Africa, and America.
So basically, Europe would send their goods, such as guns, to Africa. Now Africa would then, from Africa, Europeans would take slaves from Africa to the Americas, and from Americas, Europeans would take the goods, such as sugarcane, potatoes, and cotton, back to Europe. So that's a triangle.
Triangle. Illuminati. Alright, just kidding. There's no Illuminati. So, another thing that developed was the Columbian Exchange. Well, the Columbian Exchange is kind of like part of the triangular trade. It is generally the trade between Europe and the Americas, the Old World and the New World.
Yes. Another important thing is the slave trade, which is obviously very well known.
Master!
So previously, we talked about Europeans taking Africans to the Americas. However, keep in mind, the Europeans weren't the ones that took in slaves. Africa already had its original slave trade, and it was Africans who captured Africans and sold them to Europeans.
Yes, because those empires wanted power over other empires, so that's why they traded with the Europeans to gain more firearms.
So another name that the slave trade went by was the Atlantic slave trade. And then another name is called the Middle Passage. Well, the Middle Passage is not to be confused with the Buddhist middle path.
Yes, it's different.
One leads to nirvana, one leads to horrible death.
Yeah, suffrage and peace. So around 10 to 15 million were deported and about 15% of them died on the voyage to America.
That's about no math. This is world history. We don't
Yeah,
know
man. Slaves were transferred from the Africa to America, and there's a common
stereotype that, as we mentioned before, keep in mind the Europeans did not enslave Africans.
yes, that's
Not true.
please do remember that, and you'll ace the test. Pretty sure.
Easy five. Easy five. Most of the slave trade was done peacefully through trade. However, there were some times where the Europeans got a little tired of peace trading and they kind of just went to one village, sacked it, and took some Africans. But that's minority case.
Yeah. So what was the purpose of the trade? The slaves. So obviously, European nations conquered parts of the Americas, so they had more land. Now they can do plantations such as planting sugarcane, potatoes, and they needed manpower. But however, most of the Americans died because of guns, germs, and steel. Yeah.
All the Americans died. No
So
Americans.
the slaves went and helped for the plantations.
Keep in mind that in South Africa, the slaves were had bad living conditions, high mortality rate, and thus they had low fertility and more men than women. So lots of them died. So this caused the slave trade to keep going because they didn't have a natural growth over there. And in North America, slaves were treated better and had longer life expectancy and greater fertility. That's why most of the slave trade was conducted in the southern Americas and the Caribbean instead of North America.
Yeah.
There's children out there who slept throughout the year and have the exam the next day. Cheers.
Yeah. So today I'll be talking about.
Go.
Hey guys, welcome to Ghetto 5 to Ace World History. Hey.
Go.
So, from the era of 1450s, before at the era of